You've been running from pain, from loneliness, from the ache that surfaces when the distractions fade. You've run toward meditation retreats and spiritual books, toward relationships and achievements, toward the promise that somewhere, somehow, you'll finally arrive at peace. But here's what no one tells you. Every escape is another chain, and the very desire to be free, that noble, desperate hunger, has become the prison itself. Today, Krishnamurti will show you something you've been doing to yourself without knowing it, something so subtle, so invisible, that once seen, the entire structure of seeking collapses, and what remains is not what you expected. Picture this. You're sitting alone at night. The house is quiet, and that feeling rises. The one you've been trying to fix for years. Attachment. You see it clearly now. The way you cling to a person, to how they look at you, to the safety of being wanted. Or maybe it's an idea you're attached to. Freedom, enlightenment, the belief that one day you'll finally be complete. The grip is real. You feel it. So you say to yourself, I must be free of this. And someone tells you, or some book, or some voice in your head says, do this, and you will have that. Meditate daily. Practice non-attachment. Observe your thoughts without judgment, and slowly, patiently, you will arrive at a state where attachment no longer exists. So you do it. You follow the path. But then something happens. The reward becomes your attachment, not the person anymore, not even the idea, the promise itself, the future state where there is no attachment, no pain, no dependency. You've traded one prison for another. Krishnamurti saw this in himself and said, whether it's a woman or an idea, it is still attachment. Every method is another prison. Now you're watchful. You've learned something. You won't be fooled again by simple exchanges. This for that, pain for pleasure, bondage for freedom. But the mind is clever. It asks a deeper question. What am I to do to be free of attachment? And the moment you ask, watch what arises. A motive. I must find the way. I must understand. I must finally achieve this freedom. It feels pure, noble, necessary. But stop here. What is this motive? Imagine an archer pulling back the string. The arrow is taut, aimed at a distant target. The motive is that arrow, and you, the one pulling, are forever aiming at a target that moves the moment you release. A motive gives direction. It creates movement. Away from this, toward that. Away from pain, toward peace. And that direction dictates your freedom. The moment there is motive, there is movement. And the moment there is movement, there is time. There is the one who seeks. The one who is not yet free, but will be. Do you see it? The motive itself is your attachment. Not just the woman, not just the idea of enlightenment, the very drive to be free. You are functioning all the time within the field of attachment, the person, the future reward, the motive that propels you forward. To all of this, you are attached. Every motive is another attachment. Krishnamurti stopped here and said, my God, it's a tremendously complex thing. I didn't realize that to be free of attachment implies all this. And it does. It implies seeing not just what you cling to, but the entire machinery of clinging itself, the structure, the movement, the one who moves. So now a question cuts deeper. Why? Why do you cling in the first place? Why does the mind reach out again and again for something to hold on to? Is it that you are insufficient in yourself? Is it that beneath all the seeking, beneath all the methods and motives, there is something you're running from? Sit with this for a moment. Imagine the noise fading, the distractions gone, no book to read, no practice to do, no person to call, just you. And there it is, that feeling, like standing at the edge of a vast, empty room, dark, silent, stretching endlessly in all directions. Loneliness, not the kind that comes from being alone for a few hours, the kind that lives in the marrow, the extraordinary sense of isolation that no relationship, no achievement, no spiritual realization has ever truly touched. And suddenly, everything becomes clear. You are not attached because you love too much. You are attached because you are escaping from that void, that ache, that unbearable sense of being separate, insufficient, fundamentally alone. So you cling to a person, to an idea, to the promise of a future where you won't feel this anymore. You hold on to something, anything, because the alternative, facing that loneliness directly, feels like annihilation. And here, Krishnamurti does something radical. He doesn't offer you a way out. He says, stop running. You are no longer interested in attachment. You are interested in understanding why you are lonely, because it is the loneliness that makes you attached. As long as you are lonely, the entire sequence follows. The clinging, the motive, the endless search for something to fill the emptiness. So you must investigate, not to fix it, not to transcend it, not to replace it with some higher state, just to see it. What does it mean to be lonely? How does it come about? Is it inherited, instinctual, or is it something you are doing moment to moment that creates this sense of separation? Krishnamurti doesn't give you an answer. He says, question it and remain with the question. Don't try to solve it intellectually. Don't try to tell the loneliness what it should be. Watch it so that it can reveal itself to you. And this requires something rare. You don't run. You don't resist. You don't let thought interfere, because this is much more important than thought. Your whole energy, every fragment of attention, is given to the observation of that loneliness. And when your energy is completely there, not divided, not seeking an escape, thought doesn't come in at all. There is just the seeing. Picture it. You are standing in that vast, empty room. The loneliness is there, sharp, cold, undeniable, but you are not moving away from it. You are not trying to fill it. You are not hoping it will end. You are simply there, present, watching, not because someone told you to, not because it will lead somewhere, but because the question demands your total attention. And in that attention, without motive, without direction, without the hope of becoming something other than what is, something shifts, not as a result, not as an achievement, but as a revealing. The loneliness that seemed so solid, so unbearable, so fundamentally real, shows itself as movement. A contraction, a story, a turning away from what is. And you see it, not intellectually, not as a concept, but as a living fact. Krishnamurti said, the mind is being challenged and it must answer. And when you're challenged, it is a crisis. And in a crisis, you have got all the energy. This is that crisis. Not a crisis to be solved, but a crisis that, when faced completely, reveals something words cannot touch. So, the question that opened this inquiry returns. Why does every path to freedom become another prison? Because as long as there is motive, there is movement away from what is. And that movement is the bondage itself. Freedom is not at the end of a path. It is not a reward for diligent practice. It is not waiting in some perfected future version of yourself. Freedom is not something you arrive at. It is what remains when the movement stops. Not because you stopped it, but because you saw completely the entire machinery of escape. The attachment to the person, the attachment to the motive, the attachment to the reward, and beneath it all, the loneliness you were running from. When that is seen, really seen, without the desire to change it, the seeing itself is the transformation, not as a method, not as a technique, but as the end of something that was never necessary in the first place. What happens then cannot be described, because the moment you describe it, you create another goal, another motive, another prison. Krishnamurti only points. He doesn't promise. He doesn't guarantee. He simply asks you to look, and perhaps in that looking, without motive, without hope, without the endless movement of becoming, you discover what was always here, not as a reward, but as what is. The peace you seek has never been elsewhere.